Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Rumble. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, onto the show.
This nun, Sister Ewing, is pregnant with twins. She claims it's immaculate.
You don't think that these children are from God?
I think all children are from God.
She says her two unborn kids talk to her, and that she knows that one of them is good, and one is evil.
Серенький волчок. Ухватит за бочок и потащит по лесу.
I think we were chosen.
И потащит по лесу.
Like Mary and Joseph.
If they are born, it'll bring about the end of days.
Breathe in and out. 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 In and out.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 557. Releasing September 29 in theaters across the US and on video on demand is Deliver Us, a religious horror that tells the story of a Russian nun who claims immaculate conception when she gives birth to twin boys, one the Messiah and the other the Antichrist. Sent to investigate by the Vatican is a Catholic priest who discovers a vast conspiracy. A film of impeccable craft, engrossing storytelling, and powerful performances, Deliver Us is a high-grade example of religious horror done right, with its themes of faith, sacrifice, free will, and a duality of good and evil, sure to stir the souls of its viewers. And joining me now on the podcast is the film's star, co-writer, producer, and director Lee Roy Kunz, and the film's director, producer, Cru Ennis. Lee and Cru, I thank you both very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, man.
Lee, I gotta ask you first. So, from what I understand of the origins of this movie, is that you did write the film with your brother, but it was your dad, right, who kind of pretty much came up with the concept of the film, right? So, how did that kind of come about? That he has this awesome kind of concept for you and your brother, and later on Cru and Isaac and the guys to really dig into?
Yeah, well, I mean, he had a losing streak for a while. He was giving me bad idea after bad idea. And we were at a brewery together, and there was this baby that these irresponsible parents had left on the floor. And we had to kind of keep an eye on him. And then my dad just like, okay, just listen, shut up. I have a good idea. And he pitched it to me about a nun that is pregnant with twin boys. One's the Messiah and one's the Antichrist. And then I was just like, Dad, that's the best idea I've heard, ever heard. And so I asked my brother if he wanted to write it with me, and we jumped into it right away.
So, Cru, when you hear about this idea that Lee has, what's your reaction to it? Are you as enthusiastic of the idea of it as well? And are you thinking in your head at that moment, what's your filmmaking brain doing? What type of concepts and such is coming through your brain as Lee and his brother are putting the script together?
Well, it was immediate excitement because I hadn't heard that idea, and it's I feel like it's something that should have been done before. The idea, I don't know how someone didn't get to this sooner. And so when he pitched it to me, I immediately got very, very excited. Sorry about that. And then we were off to the races from the very beginning. 3 months after that, we were in Estonia in pre-production. So it all happened very quickly. And that's pretty much it.
So Lee, when you and your bro get together, you and Kane get together and you start working on a script for the movie, what type of, you're dealing, it's a religious horror, but it's very prominent in its kind of themes in regards to a lot of theological kind of deep themes in the movie. Where do you kind of like start in regards to delving into, like, say, biblical or literal or even film influences in regards to the framing of the movie? Because you're going to have to dig into certain things here, and I'm sure in your case, you wanted to make sure that you get a lot of these concepts right, not only in regards to a filmmaking storytelling aspect, but to me there is a very certain air of authenticity to it, because it's a movie that takes its themes very seriously. You can feel that in it, and that's why I really enjoyed about it. Because sometimes I think you watch films and they kind of skirt along the lines of these themes. I coined the term called Cathsploitation, where a lot of filmmakers take Catholic themes and kind of like to exploit them to make a film. Where in this case, it feels like the themes in the film feel much more resonant, much more authentic. So what type of influences, what type of inspirations are you and Kane diving into in framing this script?
I'd say first and foremost, probably like certain stories from the Bible that we like Job was used to explore Father Fox's character, Revelations, and then as a Catholic, Revelations, we kind of see it a little bit differently, is that it was like a work of art that was written, and it was like a type of fiction, apocalyptic fiction, meant to give comfort and inspiration to the Christians at the time that were being persecuted by the Romans and being like fed to the lions. And so the kind of freedom in that to use art to explore those themes is kind of natural to us. And also both big Dostoevsky fans, and the brothers Karamazov, there's this chapter in it called The Grand Inquisitor that Ivan writes about, that Jesus comes back. It's a second coming of Jesus, and it happens during the Spanish Inquisition, and the Catholic Church actually captures him and then basically interrogates him and tells him everything that he's done wrong, that he gave people too much free will and that they were correcting it. And so that inspired what we say the bad part, which Vox Dei is like this renegade part of the church that thinks they know better and that are kind of acting in the shadows. So that was then, each piece came from something else. And then our unifying theme was trying to connect it to other world religions, as if each religion has like this deep wisdom and they're all scratching at parts of the truth. But I think part of religion is that we're never seeing the whole of it all. And so we started with Zoroastrianism, which is one of the precursors to Christianity. I don't think it predates Judaism in terms of like monotheism, but it was definitely one of the first ones about talking about of two opposing forces in the world, good and evil. And so our film starts with the Zoroastrian priests in an Iranian temple being, this prophecy being taken from them.
Speaking of that opening scene, Cru, the movie is very much a slow burn, but that opening scene, when I watched it, I was like, these guys aren't fucking around, all right? Because I was watching the scene, and it's like it is pretty kind of like it's full on. But again, it's not in regards to exploitation. It goes in regards to the themes in the movie. And in this case, that opening scene, I don't want to give it away too much for people. It is startling, but it's very much part of the story. It's part of the opposing theologies that's happening. But to open a film like that, Cru, is there much debate amongst you all to whether you wanted to start a film like that? Because usually, sometimes I watch films and they kind of build up to a moment like that. But in this case, you guys are really stepping right into this is the world that we're in. We're dealing with flesh. We're dealing with blood. Themes that can be both literal, theological, etc. But in this case, very much so. It's very much literal. So to dive into a world like that, Cru, and introduce the world in that way? Is it something that you guys really had to talk about quite a bit? Because, just like an opening song of an album, you want to make sure you make an impact,
Right.
but the impact depends on really much the tone you want to set for the rest of the movie.
It was from the get-go, it was a topic of discussion with our assembly editor when the script was written, to production with our assembly editor, and then afterwards, whenever me and Leroy were deciding what would be the best version of this film in order to reach the world. And it's important, as far as bookends of the movie, to start the movie that way, because how we end the movie. So opening with the worst that humanity has to offer and what we're capable of was really important to set the tone and give us the momentum to get to know these characters in the way that we did. So it's hard to elaborate it on any further without giving anything away. Yes. But we establishing the prophecy, how and why they had to do what they did to these priests, we thought was important, and we thought it would get people's attention. And so far, the feedback we've gotten is it definitely does.
Lee, I want to talk about the visual approach to the movie. There's such a strong, visually wise, like the photography from Isaac Varman, who you guys known for a very long time. The work that he does in the film is incredible. But when it comes to certain things in regards to visions, dreams in the film, there are scenes, there are imagery that really stand out and pop. And I know your background is you are a graphic novelist as a background. So does that come into play when it comes to those kind of images? Do you like the storyboard? Do you had ideas that maybe you had beforehand and like, what, I remember I drew something from like a couple of years ago and might go good, and how's that kind of all kind of come into play?
Yeah, there were kind of ways like, okay, that this is the way that that God would be communicating with them. And me and Isaac actually are really both into dreams. Like we've read a lot of Carl Jung books and seen like how like whether or not it's like a collective conscious, but that this is the way that these certain images that resonate with everybody. And so we kind of stick to that. But like there's some of my favorite dream sequences that weren't in it that kind of tell the story of his journey, which is like all these blind people running with flesh covered their eyes. They're running towards a cliff and they're about to fall off, and Father Fox is trying to stop them. And so we kind of workshopped a lot of different ones to then get to like the ice cross, him coming out of the ice. We found out that that's actually it's how people in the Eastern Orthodox Church actually go get baptized.
Really?
And so then they go out there. And so we're like, okay, this is perfect, because in a sense, he is being baptized into taking on this role. And this is the journey that he's about to go on. And so everything that we did with the dream was kind of tied into that kind of some kind of meaning that was like already shared in the culture.
Cru, you mentioned before Estonia. I think something that really pops out of in the film is the locations in the movie, the different places, the monastery, the hut, the house that the father's girlfriend lives in. I want to talk about the monastery, especially, or the convent, so I should say. Where did you find that place? Because it was just quite an incredible thing to watch on screen, because just the way that the candles are used, the use of shadows, light and darkness. I think you couldn't think of a better location to shoot a film like Deliver Us than that place right there.
Thank you. It was actually a vodka distillery, abandoned.
That's funny.
We had an incredible production designer, Lisu. Unfortunately, I can't pronounce her last name, but she worked wonders. We built that room from scratch where we have the opening dinner where they're having the soup. That's built from scratch. She did all that with her team. And when we got to Estonia, we had an incredible support system. Like the crew that we ended up with was the best the region has to offer because of the pandemic. So we got to look at tons of different locations and craft our story around them. And we took a large chunk of the budget and put it towards that monastery and let Lisu really flex with her skills in order to set that tone that we live in for the first 20 minutes of the movie. after our teaser. So that was given as a choice among several other great places. Estonia is an incredible place to work, and I know we're both looking forward to doing something else there.
And just to piggyback on that, the place, the kind of like the shots of the snow-driven landscapes and stuff, is that also Estonia as well?
Oh yeah. So when we got there early January, there was only 6 hours of light a day. So it was basically dark and just completely covered in snow. And so we had snow right up until the end of the first week of shooting, and then it just all disappeared. It was all gone. And then as we needed it in the story, it would just snow. And there was many different landscapes. There's this beautiful, lush green forest. And then an hour away, you would have a frozen, beautiful white tundra. You know, it was great. And then you had the cliffs and the ocean, and it was great. There's so much more there too for the next films that we want to explore. But there's a lot.
You know what? Yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, I said, there was a lot. It was beautiful.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you love. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. You know, something that I'm picking up on quite a bit with talking to filmmakers of the last year or so is that post-COVID, there have been much more resource, much more effort into finding places to shoot outside of the US. Now, that was the case before. Because of tax incentives and such, people might go to Australia, people might go to Canada. But I do find places like what you said before, Estonia, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, a place like that have become much more kind of like popular. Are you finding that as well, Cru, that a lot of places like that have become much more popular with independent filmmakers, especially like post-COVID, where there even now there's still kind of like some rumblings that maybe mask mandates might come back, etc. I mean, are places like that an alternative, and do you think it's going to be a permanent alternative to a lot of filmmaking from now in the future going on?
Well, I think the protocols that were put in place are, they're easily scalable. So if it continues, that's fine. We know how to deal with it. I think that we go and make movies where we have a support structure. And I think places like Estonia, Germany, Italy, Bulgaria, Romania, like they're building up such exceptional crews that it's and they have incentives. So it helps us go and make stories more authentic. So, I think that's only going to get better in the future, especially as it gets easier to make film with technology, and we're able to communicate the skill set it takes to make one. I think that's the biggest hurdle, is like these skill sets, these jobs, they matter, and like these people's life's works go in crafting this skill that takes to be a great, grip or electric or gaffer or art department or whatever. And we were, lucky enough to find that in Estonia. But such great artists there.
Lee, I wanted to ask you about what your thoughts are about the rise of religious horror over the last few years. It's really interesting. Horror movies are kind of interesting to me because they kind of goes in like there's like all these different kind of like subgenres that kind of pop up, and that kind of like is like the thing for the moment, and it becomes it stays there, and a lot of people kind of follow suit. Religious horror is interesting because I think to me, in a lot of contexts, religion plays a big part in horror stories, because the stories are usually based around good versus evil and the supernatural, and a lot of them happens within the Christian context, right? So, especially in like North America and such. But lately, it seems like it's gotten really, really popular, and there's a lot of interesting work coming out of it as well. Do you think it's a thing where religious horror lends itself more in regards to iconography, in regards to theme, to create really good movies around there? Do you think there's something else going on in the context of that subgenre being so popular lately?
Yeah, I think it's probably influenced a lot by the culture and how everybody feels. I think COVID probably had a profound effect on it. Just the kind of, and then also just that feeling out there. I saw like a survey about like what Gen Z thinks about like the end of the world, and I
Mm.
think a big portion of them think that like the world's not going to last longer than, I don't know, like 20 or 50 years or something like that. And so I think that the end of the world genre stuff, it kind of started a little bit with dystopian. I think like Hunger Games and all the young adult novels is all about like society collapsing. And so maybe like we're finally like revisiting what I think the 70s was like the best example of religious horror. And so
Mhm.
maybe we're kind of entering back that in, and just a way to express a lot of what everybody's feeling.
Drew, when it comes to yourself and Lee as two directors working on the one movie, you guys have known each other for a long time. I think all the way back to like film school, right? Like you guys know each other, and Isaac as well, and you have your own production company together as well. But when it comes to working together on set, especially when like Lee's like also starring in the movie, etc., is there kind of like having it's such a like a strong, long relationship, personal and work wise, for such a long time? Is there that kind of like a symbiosis where you both kind of know each other's instincts, and there's a trust factor there that when it comes to making certain decisions and such, there's a reliance on one another to that. Yes, we know exactly what one another is doing. We have the same mindset and going forward. Or is there still kind of like even to this day like a conversation, debate in regards to working on a movie? Because I find it very interesting how you can have when you have two creative minds work together to try to make this the one project.
Really good question. Most of that happens in pre-production for us.
Mhm.
So like we're both addicted to working. Like we really enjoy this and like grinding out what and why we want to do something and how we want to do it. And so we had a very extensive pre-production, and then going into actual production, there's a lot of trust. You don't ever want to, disagree in front of the crew. You want to be on the same page. They need to know that we know what we're doing and what we're trying to capture. And I think we did a really good job of that. Like we came in prepared. We had a very tight schedule, very tight budget, and we had a lofty goals for this film. I mean, our film does not look like what it cost. It certainly doesn't entertain like it cost. So, with that, I think, it came down to pre-production and then trust. Like our relationship is like we've known each other so long, it's more like family driven. So there's no filters. We're able to get in a room, make mistakes, and get over them relatively quickly, and go out there and do what's best for the film. And I mean, I think that's ultimately what happened in Estonia, and that's why we got such an entertaining film that people are really responding to.
Lee, when it comes to the character you're playing in the film, he's got a really good quote in the movie where he says, he'd rather be a good Christian rather than a bad priest. And not to give away too much, but within the first kind of like 5 minutes of the movie, you kind of know where your character's journey is as a priest. He's kind of like on the process of leaving the priesthood for the reasons that he has. And I'm really curious in regards to putting the character like that together. From what I read, you yourself have a strong Catholic background, and from all indications, you like to read about theology and all sorts of stuff as well. When you have a character like that in a movie like this, is this an opportunity for you to kind of express your own kind of like thoughts, desires, frustration in regards to what you think the church is, what you want it to be, and any other type of kind of like thoughts you might have about the church as an institution, as a faith, and the priests, the role that clergy has in it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I got that quote. It was a book that I read that Pope Francis wrote. It was a conversation between him and his like one of his best friends who's a rabbi, when I think it was before he became Pope. I was interested in a character like that who is still very faithful and Christian, but then still deciding to leave the church. I think that to ask about the institution, I kind of liked exploring the Vox Dei, using that part when the church has done some really horrible things. Like I'm still upset about how they handled the child sex scandal.
Yeah.
I don't think enough they were too silent about it. I don't think that
Yeah.
it's like they didn't punish enough people. And so I think that that's like kind of a way to acknowledge that like that of course bad people are going to be able to infiltrate this human institution thing. And so that Vox Day would be a good way to like exercise that and work that out. And yeah, to I guess it says a lot that like you can still like that what is important to me about being Catholic in the institution, there's so much truth and beauty in it that there's still this that too many times people cover up for that bad stuff. I guess says yeah.
Oh well, I agree 110% about everything you just said there. There's so many, and it's to me, I think a lot of times what your character has gone through, a lot of times he's confronted with a lot of different things in the film. And again, I don't want to give away anything in regards to that, but I think it's really interesting how we, as Catholics or any religious people or anyone really who has a strong belief in an ideology or a faith or what have you, when you're confronted with the bad sides or the bad doings of things within that faith or that institution, how we kind of wrestle with that kind of like inner thing. And I'm sure like your character as well as you like is just completely I mean, in regards to the movie, he's like wrestling with so many things going on in this, but like I don't want to give away too much, but I'm sure like these inner monologue would have been interesting. Do you as an actor, when you approach a character like that who's gone through such a transition in regards to faith and just to how the rules of the game have kind of changed for him right in front of his eyes, do you like to write diaries? Do you like to write backstory? Do you like to write things like that in regards to your characters?
Yeah, definitely. Like have a whole like there's even backstory that I realize is really funny to Canadians is that Father Fox is actually from that's a bad thing to forget where I'm from. Edmonton. And that dialogue, and there's a lot of even that got deleted, that's where he's going to go back and raise his family. And they, it's read that like he thought that would just be a great place to live. So I've basically, I map out all that stuff. I talk to it with Cru. And then by the time we're filming it, just to completely let it all go. And even in the story, like there's a lot of stuff that gets cut out just so that it's, it's the lived in experience. All of that informs it. Yeah.
Cru, when it comes to Deliver Us, from what I understand, this is like not the end of the road when it comes to this story. There's like I heard before in other interviews that you guys have done, there's a possibility of maybe a few more films in the pipeline. Of course, it all comes down to the success of what helped Deliver Us, and I pray that it does do great business because it's such a great film. If it does hit the financial goals that you guys are hoping that it achieves, is there a good chance that we could see more of this story, either in regards to a sequel, prequel, what have you, and delve more into this world and flesh out this world that we've had a taste of so far?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, me and Leroy and Isaac have all talked about where the story would go, and Leroy and Kane have made some good pitches for a sequel and a third film. And this was a lot of fun to make, and it like helped us, or me especially, examine things in my life. And I would want to continue that journey for myself and, for the characters in the film. I think they would too. It just, we got to hit a certain mark. The film's got to succeed in order to be able to ask for resources to do something like that. So our fingers are crossed come September 29th that people show up and enjoy what we've worked so hard for.
Yeah, so for everyone out there listening, September 29, Deliver Us. Look, you can have the choice to watch this from home, but I really, really, really encourage people to watch this in cinemas because, like Cru says, this is a film that you wouldn't think it cost what it make the cost, because this is the visuals the performances. Just there's a thickness to the visuals and everything that belongs to a big screen. And I think this is a big screen experience. It really is. Not to mention like the sound effects as well. I think it's got one of the best jump scares I've seen in a little while. It's like near the start of the film as well. You really actually made me go like that when I was watching it. So I can't wait for people to do that in cinemas. And I encourage everyone out there, watch this in cinemas, because this is the type of independent horror filmmaking, the craft, the performances, the themes, that is right up my alley. I love this film, and I want everyone out there to share that same experience and watch it. So watch it in cinemas if you can. If you can't, you have other options of video on demand, but watch it in cinemas. It's the perfect thing, perfect movie to start off Halloween season. And I think suffice to say that it's going to be a very high task for movies to follow this coming October to match up what you guys are doing, because it's one of my favorite horror movies of the year, I got to say. So you guys have done a great job. Congratulations to you both, Cru and Lee. Thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to get my review out, get this podcast out, man, and see how this film does, because I think it's a really great work here. So thank you so much for your time, and congratulations and best success to you.
Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate it very much.
That was amazing.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.